for the filming of the Lord of the Rings. So there were 39 Hobbit holes built here for the Lord of the Rings, and they were all built out of temporary materials, mostly like plywood and polystyrene, sort of stuff that can be easily dismantled and taken away again. This is how most movie sets are built, because of course they are mostly broken up after filming because they won't be needed again. So when the crew finished filming here, they began to dismantle this set and take it away. But they were actually forced to stop by some very bad weather, which made it unsafe for them to keep their work in here. So they had to vacate the site. This meant, of course, that the Alexanders were then left with 17 Hobbit holes down the back of their farm for an indefinite period of time. No idea what to do with them. But then the first film, The Fellowship of the Ring, came out in the cinemas, and of course it absolutely smashed the box office with everybody else's expectations. So everyone was watching The Fellowship of the Ring, which included many of the locals. Now a lot of them were already aware that there was some kind of a movie set down the back of the Alexander farm. It was supposed to be a secret, but one night several of the crew members had gone down the local pub, and the next morning it wasn't a secret. It's funny how these things happen. But of course they then watched The Fellowship of the Ring and realised exactly what movie set it was, so it didn't take them too long to come knocking on the Alexander's door. But because, of course, the set was still at least partially here, the Alexanders were still under a lot of contracts and agreements, meaning that they could not bring visitors on the site here. But they had the thought that they could turn this into a bit of a business, so they went to New Line and began negotiating the rights to the remaining 17 Hobbit holes to be left behind here more permanently, so they could start taking tours through them. So by January of 2002, they had finally gained all of the necessary rights to start their business here and bring their first tour through, and that only ended up being 4 people that came through in the back of a minivan to look at 17 muddy holes in the side of a hill with some sheep in them. That was about the extent of our operation here from 2002 until 2008. It was very quiet and somewhat off the books. In 2008 though, Peter Jackson came back here and discussed with the Alexanders the possibility of filming The Hobbit. And of course, to film The Hobbit, he would need Hobbiton. So the Alexanders agreed to allow him to rebuild on their farm. However, they weren't silly. They could see a business opportunity in this for themselves. So they said to Peter, look, we want you to rebuild our entire set, or the entire set out of permanent materials, so that we can start a larger, more permanent tourism business off the back of the filming. And of course they had to negotiate this with New Line Cinemas, who being the producers get the final say in these things. Now New Line aren't too silly either. They could see an opportunity in this for themselves. So they said to the Alexanders, look, we want to go into business with you as your partners. In exchange for building you a permanent movie set on your farm, we then want the ownership rights to the 12 acres of land on your farm that Hobbiton is within, as well as a percentage of the income from your operation. It was at that point Peter Jackson burst in the room and said, oi, what about me? I'm the director. So this then became a joint venture between those 3 major shareholders, the Alexanders, New Line and Sir Peter Jackson. So New Line Cinemas commissioned Peter Jackson's film studio Weta Workshops to build this entire set again out of building materials, or out of materials that are all builder certified to last about 40 to 50 years. It took them about 2 years to rebuild this set. Now of course over the last few years this has become one of the most successful individual tourism outlets in New Zealand. So we'll continue up to the top of the hill, and at the top of the hill to the right we'll be able to see our newest section of Hobbiton. So once we're up there I'll give you a bit of information about that. So those guys still at the very back, I'll get you to keep moving with the group. We're starting to head on now.